Rusty Dusty. We're going to be rusty today because
Frank?
we haven't done this in a while. Greg, how are you?
You cut out. You cut out, Frank. You're just like tradition continues. Frank, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I don't know if you noticed, but the playoffs are set.
Yeah, we got some matchups. Are you happy with the matchups? You happy with Montreal, Ottawa, Winnipeg, and Anaheim? What are you thinking?
You said the word that matters, Frank. Winnipeg. Yes, I'm happy with the matchups because Winnipeg is in the dance.
Winnipeg, puke in your mouth, Jets.
What do you mean, puke in your mouth?
Well, it's Winnipeg, right? It's kind of the armpit of Canada.
You know what really pisses me off, Saskatchewan? Here's what pisses me off. We make fun of Winnipeg a lot out here. For those of you listening in America, we have a big USA audience and one in South Korea this week.
America.
We all just make fun of Winnipeg.
Well,
it's like, what do we have in Regina that we can make fun of in Winnipeg?
Well, I don't live in Regina anymore, but you're completely right. They're very similar cities, except Winnipeg's just bigger.
Bigger, has an NHL team, has like national exhibits. For
our American fans, we have healthcare in Canada, and we're not obsessed with the military. That's the one big difference between Canada and the U.S. I was in America on Wednesday and Saturday.
What for?
I was there for a conference for work.
Oh, okay.
And man, it's a little bit strange. They just love their military, which like they let the military folk jump on the plane before anyone else, even before the sick children and mothers who are prego.
That's weird.
Yeah, they have an announcement and everything.
Here's something. Can I ask you a personal question, Frank?
Depends how personal.
Was there a lot of marijuana in Colorado?
They have that reputation, but I didn't smoke any weed. I didn't smell any weed.
There we go. No. You were going a bit too deep there. Too many layers.
A little too personal.
Speaking of too personal,
but I was at a pretty nice hotel, and I don't know. I just didn't smell any.
What are you, a Ritz-Carlton guy now?
It was like probably a 12-story hotel.
12 stars.
12-story.
Oh, 12-story.
Yeah. They didn't have a hot tub though, which I didn't like.
That doesn't make any sense.
No.
How are you going to relax without a hot tub?
You can't. And the sauna was split up between a man and a woman's sauna, so I was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like
if I can't discrimination thing.
Yeah, I'm like, if I'm going to sit in a sauna sweating, I want to at least have some eye candy.
You want someone to look at you, right?
Well, no. I was thinking about wearing a T-shirt if I had to. I wanted to see my belly.
Here's my thing, Frank.
Sure.
And maybe I'll get into this afterwards, but remind me to ask you about your Twitter profile picture. But first, I want to say a special thank you to all of our listeners in Asia.
Yeah, we got one apparently, and I hope he doesn't use Facebook or any social media anymore, because I do not want to hear it. I do not want to hear it from our Asian fan.
Our one South Korean friend, big Ducks fan, really excited to lose in the first round.
He's got a mouth on him like a sailor.
Now, before we get into the playoffs, I want to talk about something kind of the opposite.
Okay. 2-ply toilet paper. Colorado loves their 2-ply toilet paper. Even the airport had 2-ply toilet paper.
Really?
Yeah, just little known fact. And also that they don't supply you with steak knives when you eat steak. It's ridiculous. I was cutting this thick, juicy steak with a butter knife.
Well, was the steak that soft?
No. They just don't believe in steak knives. They want you to work for them.
So which pissed you off more, the steak knives or the toilet paper?
Well, I mean, I wasn't pissed off about the toilet paper. Remember? The toilet paper was good.
Oh, I forgot that you're a connoisseur, right? You lived with one ply your entire life, and so you get two. You kind of celebrate.
It was 2-ply. And, yeah, even at the airport. Airport usually just have 1-ply. They don't care about your ass at the airport.
Frank, you're out of control.
What did you want to talk about?
I thought this was a PG-13 show.
Oh, I didn't think that was a bad word.
Oh, wait, 13's okay. You're right.
In 2015, I think we're all right to use that.
Yeah, you're bringing it in. Feel free.
Sure.
You got a couple more bombs to throw. No, here's what I want to talk about. The teams that didn't make the playoffs.
Oh.
They're almost as much of a story as those who did.
The Kingers have had like some of the most regulation wins of any team.
The King Kongs.
Playoff and teams that didn't make the playoffs.
Now, here's what I'm saying about the Kings. Who cares? Like, they're a bunch of smug pricks.
Sure, they won 2 cups. Who gives a crap? Right?
They walked through every game they played, and they're like, "Meh, you know what? We'll just push it to the wire, and we'll be okay."
Exactly.
What was their problem, Frank?
Well, I mean, they had no depth on their bottom 3 or their bottom 2 lines. Am I wrong or am I wrong?
I'm going to say you're wrong. Here's their problem.
What do you think their problem then?
Their problem was they hated their coach.
Oh, I knew you were going there. They don't like his scowl. They're just sick and tired of his scowl.
Yeah. Like the whole chunks from Goonies thing wore off on them.
My question is, are they actually going to get rid of this chump?
They gotta. Which is funny because he won 2 cups.
I heard one of their players interviewed, I think it was Drew Doughty in an interview, and they asked him, they're like, so how good of a coach is this Daryl Sutter? And he says to them, well, I mean, he's a coach. I mean, it's the players in the dressing room that are the reason why we're winners.
Really?
Yeah.
So they're putting no faith in this guy.
I think he just inherited a really good club.
For those of you
who can argue with that?
For those of you listening, there's a story out there about Daryl Sutter and how he grinds the gears of his team so bad that near the end of the season, they actually locked him out of the dressing room. They actually locked him out. And
they put garbage receptacles inside the door once he got someone to unlock the door for him.
Frank, I got a question for you.
Sure.
And
shoot.
You can let me know if this is too personal.
And it probably is.
When's the last time you used the word garbage receptacle?
Well, I'm not sure if I've ever used that word.
Where's that coming from?
Well, I got an email today about someone who picked up a garbage receptacle, and yeah, it was just in my mind.
I like that.
What would you call it?
A can?
No, it wasn't a garbage can. It was like, well, I pictured like this big, like, square. I guess it would be. It would maybe just be a bigger garbage can. But I think cans,
maybe.
Can's not the right word because they're not all made out of tin anymore.
Anyway, the story goes, you're right. They place garbage receptacles like 4-year-old children trying to get away from their parents to try and make a point that, hey, coach, we hate you.
And Drew Doughty, being the joker he is, he took a dump in one of the garbage cans. That was reported too, wasn't it?
We might have read different stories, Frank.
Oh, that was on a different website. Okay.
Oh, dear. So the Kings are a mess, and we're okay with that.
Yes.
It's nice to see some fresh blood in the playoffs. Now, which was a bigger miss to you? Was it the Kings missing, or was it the Bruins missing?
Well, I think LA's a better team. Boston's kind of on the down with their star player, Zdeno Chara, kind of getting out of his prime. So I think it was a bigger surprise that LA didn't make it.
He's looking a bit haggard these days.
LA's proven in the past that in clutch time they can just turn it on and win, obviously with a little bit of luck. But this year, that was not the case at all, right? Losses to the Canucks and Flames.
And Oilers.
And the Oilers? Would you believe that if someone would have told you that in October, that was going to happen?
And then they played their backup goalie against the Oilers when they knew they needed 2 points. Was that not strange to anyone else?
Well, it was back-to-back nights, right? So they just thought we could beat Edmonton.
Frank, I'm going to put it on the line here and say you play your best hand. You need those points.
Yeah, but if your best hand is overtired, then that's not your best decision.
Jonathan Quick, you want to win a Vezina Trophy, and you're as good as people say you are? Get out there and beat one of the worst teams in the league.
So was it goaltending the reason that they lost that game? No. You got nothing. You got nothing, Craig.
I mean, they let in some soft goals against the Oilers.
Sure.
Now those guys are lazy. Anyway, I'm happy the Bruins are out too. I don't know like the listener to this podcast. No, I hate the Bruins. In fact, I was wrestling this year with whether or not I like the Jets more than I hate the Bruins. Like, which gives me more joy in life, seeing them win or seeing the Bruins out? And I can officially say it's seeing the Jets in.
Yeah, because you wept when you were at the game there on Saturday night.
Yeah, I wept because how bad it was. I got to go see the Jets versus the Flames, game 82 in, what are they called, MTS Center. Is there a nickname for it, the Hangar?
I have no clue. I'm not connected to the Winnipeg.
It was wild.
Crowds.
They are loud in there.
But the team just laid eggs because they didn't care.
Oh, both teams didn't care. You could tell they were only out there because they had to be. And the whole goal of the entire game was not to get hurt.
Calgary benched their top line. Their top line didn't play.
Yeah, and I would say sort of the Jets, but I don't even know what line our top line is.
So
we got 3 third lines.
Do you think that the Jets can actually beat Anaheim, and why?
Are you jumping right into this?
Okay, well, I mean, unless you have something else you'd like to talk about.
Well, I thought we'd just, quickly talk about Jaromir Jagr re-signing.
Okay, who are you most impressed with on the Jets roster? Was there anybody that was impressive? The goaltender, maybe?
On the ice?
Paul Maurice's bags underneath his eyes, those are pretty impressive.
His spectacles or his receptacles?
I was talking about those bags underneath his eyes.
You got an issue with the bags?
Obviously has a problem sleeping. He's got some sleep apnea issues.
Well, if you're listening right now, just send us a tweet about some nice night cream that we could recommend to Mr. Paul Maurice. You know what really pissed me off about my trip to Winnipeg was I asked Gary Lawless of TSM fame to go for coffee with me, and the guy said he was too busy.
He's like, oomfa, as he picks up his belly and does up his pants. I don't know. For me, I mean, I don't know why. Big people have to they have to take off their belt to tuck in their shirt, right? I just had to explain that because that sounded a bit odd.
Well, I'm imagining like that Van Down by the River skit. If you are
big men, I like when big men when their shirts are tucked in. They look so funny, and then they put their heads back and they got these like big old double chin. Gary Lawless, though, is probably the least friendly fat guy you'd ever see.
Oh, that's what I wanted to go for coffee with him for.
So you weren't surprised that he didn't even bother to reply?
I wanted to go for coffee and ask Gary to his face, "Hey, Gary, why are you such a negative Nancy?
And why do you talk like this, Gary?"
Like he's way too negative all the time. No one wants to hang out with that. I feel sorry for his kids.
Does he have any children, Greg?
You know what? I'm going to assume no. Maybe that's why he's miserable.
He's just so sad that he never got love in his life.
You know what? That could be it, Frank. The guy's got no love.
He just never got enough attention when he was an offensive lineman for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
He was sad that he didn't win the sumo wrestler award in Japan. Oh, that was a low blow. Sorry, Gary. I'll take that one back.
He traveled all the way to Japan, and they didn't even let him be a sumo wrestler.
Okay, two things before we get into the Eastern Conference.
Oh, okay.
And I want to talk about awards here.
Jaromir Jagr.
Okay, we'll talk about Jagr first. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
You love Jaromir Jagr.
I hope he plays till he's 50.
You were telling me that. Could you imagine if he was 50 years old and just some idiot like Trevor Gillies or Steve Downey just teen him up?
There should be a hashtag for Jagr. 50 and 50. 50 points at 50 years old.
I would love that. I hope it happens.
Yeah.
Do you think that he makes the playoffs next year with Florida?
Oh, Florida's in. They're in like sin.
You think
There's
so?
no doubt about it. That team is coming around.
Because Columbus is in next year too.
Barkov is a bigger version of Pavel Datsyuk, at least according to Roberto Luongo.
Yeah, but what does he know?
Jaromir Jagr.
The only thing Roberto knows is how not to win in the playoffs.
Jagr's been around, and he's let's be honest, Jagr's pretty excitable, but he's pretty excited about Barkov.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Yeah, I'll agree with about Florida next year. They almost made it in this year. Heck, they were pretty close. If they didn't have injuries, they might have been in.
Well, that team, like for the first 2/3 of the year, they never went on anything more than a 3-game winning streak or a 3-game losing streak. They just and the team didn't know how to score goals for the first 20 games of the season.
Yeah, they should have watched some YouTube videos before the season started for sure.
Jagr made that for top line though. He completely turned around the season for Huberdeau and Barkov.
Now, we just want to give a shout out to our one Florida Panthers fan,
Reeser.
Mr. Sheldon Reese himself. New Panthers blog up. What is it? Seinfeld in Florida?
Sounds right.
Seinfeld. I got the address. Check the website for more details for that link, and we'll get that to you.
Seinfeld in Sunrise.wix.com. Oh, that didn't work. That's not the right address.
/August.
Oh, that's what I always forget to do is
now,
the August.
Frank, I got to apologize to you because for a while now, you and I have been arguing about Sidney Crosby versus Ovechkin, and I think we finally figured out that Sidney Crosby was better. But now it's kind of rolling back around again. And we got to ask the question, is Alexander Ovechkin the best goal scorer of all time?
Well, I mean, it's not at that point yet, but I mean, I guess you could make an argument at this point. I'd call this a second dead puck era, and he's got 650 goals. Who else has done that? Mike Bossy, Gretzky, Lemieux. The numbers of players that have done that are very slim.
It's incredible who he's like Bossy, Lemieux, Gretzky, Hull. Like these guys that score all these goals, and it's like, oh, Ovechkin's in there, and he's doing it in what people called, well, not the dead puck era, but it's a heck of a lot harder to score goals now than it used to be.
He's doing it in a different way than he did early in his career. He's doing it on the power play.
He loves it.
His shooting percentage on the power play is like off the charts.
What blows me away is just how he does it. Like he literally, they get the puck open to an Ovi on the face-off there, on the left-hand face-off, and he just lets her go. It doesn't matter who's in net; it's going in.
The thing with Ovechkin is he's always going to be one of the top guys in the league for getting shots. You take that many shots and you have a good shot, he gives himself a pretty good chance. But the question is, can this guy score 50 in his 30s, and how many times? Because there are not a lot of players that are even able to do that. Usually you just go down the crapper after you turn 30. You think
you go down the garbage receptacle after you're 30?
There we go. I thought I cleaned that up quite nicely, but you did a better job. So do you think he can score 40, 50 after 30?
Absolutely. He's not even playing with Backstrom anymore, and he's still putting him in the net.
How many times do you think he's going to score it?
How old is he now? Is he 29?
He's 29. So next year will be his 30. He'll be a 30 plus.
I'm going to say he's going to score 3 more seasons at 50 goals.
I think the record's 9 by Gretzky, so he'll get close. But I mean, the guy's going to score 800 goals if he I think if he scores 30 for the next 8 years. It's just a prediction. I guess I haven't really thought about the numbers. I haven't done the math, but I think the guy's going to score 800 goals if he plays long enough.
It's wild. It's wild, and all the praise to Ovechkin. You deserve it all, and you're not going to get a lot from us because, well, we're biased Canadians, and unfortunately, we play that card quite strongly. But you deserve all the credit you can get.
How many goals would have Gretzky got in the 80s if he was playing nowadays and not in the 80s?
Gretzky? Do you even think you'd notice him out there? I imagine him to be like a Nugent Hopkins.
Well, I think he'd be a good player. I mean, and he's the best of a generation that there were some good players. I mean, Mario played in the 80s and he scored some crazy amount of points, but he didn't score more than Gretzky. And Yzerman was a darn good player too, and he played a portion of the 80s. So I mean, there's a lot of Hall of Famers that would be competitive nowadays just by how the two eras overlapped. Yzerman, Sakic didn't play a lot in the 80s, but a lot of these guys played just at the tail end, right before or as this era of players, it's Crosby and Ovechkin came along. So I don't know. I don't think we give them enough credit.
Am I wrong in thinking, though, that the players that are on the ice nowadays are like genetic monsters? Well, they're almost bred to be massive individuals.
They are, but I mean, you look at a player like you compared Gretzky to a Nugent Hopkins. I mean, obviously a pretty frail human being, not exactly a physical force in any way, shape, or form.
No, he's like paper. He's like a newt out there.
But the guy is still not that far off from being a point-a-game player.
The guy's a salamander on the ice, Frank.
The point is that he's still an effective player, and Gretzky, you would assume, would be a lot more talented than Nugent Hopkins.
If an amphibian could hold his stick, it'd be Nugent Hopkins.
My point is, he's still got skill and pretty good vision.
Yeah, he's all right.
So Gretzky, you would think Gretzky would at least be with the pack nowadays.
He'd be okay. Now, speaking of,
it's hard to tell.
He's often compared to Gretzky, but Sidney Crosby. We'll talk about this Art Ross race. Was that the worst Art Ross race of all time with the best finish?
I was going to say it was the worst, best Art Ross finish there was. How about that finish by Ben? 15 points in 6 games
to
finish her off. He wasn't even in the race.
Yeah, a couple empty net goals to help that out.
4 points in his last game.
Yeah. What blew me away was
he still scored that one on scored on an actual goaltender to get the clinching point.
Well, he didn't score it. He got the second assist that went off his foot. Like,
I don't care how he did it, Hillary. I'm digging myself out here, right? I honestly saw that highlight, and I saw about 3 seconds of it.
Well, at least you're being honest.
And that was the only time I ever saw it.
Hope your honesty is rewarded. Anyway, pretty cool finish. I really feel like he robbed John Tavares of something that, he really deserved.
Yeah, and Ben's a dirtbag.
I don't think so.
As we all... Well, I mean, he went on the radio and badmouthed the Down syndrome twins, and that's not very nice.
Did he call them the Down syndrome twins?
No, he talked about them being like the sisters and doing strange things on the road when they roomed together on the road.
Yeah, Frank, I gotta think that John Tavares, though, deserved it. Like, he was a big difference over there on the Islanders.
He really struggled the second half of the year. The whole Islanders team did. They just had a harder time putting a puck in the net there. And you heard him complaining after in the exit interviews for the season. He was saying that there's not as many power play called this year, not as many power plays, and then that's his bread and butter. That's where he puts his points up. So that's his excuse.
I'll tell you. Are you using an abacus in the background?
Did you hear that little noise?
Yeah, I did. I can hear everything.
I was playing with some change.
What are you doing? You're focused on a podcast here. Give the fans your full attention, Frank.
Yes, sir. Will do.
This podcast brought to you by the Keg Steakhouse, where you can get a steak and a steak knife to eat it with.
Only in Canada.
Only in Canada.
How about that rookie race there, Greg?
Oh, man.
You're probably partial to the lightest hockey player and smallest hockey, or not hockey player,
Frank, you
but
just know how to piss me off.
Professional athlete. He's the smallest.
You know how to piss me off.
Shortest.
You're always shoving the flames down my throat. I don't know why that is.
Well, you're a homer.
Frank,
We all know it. You're in the closet.
I'm silent here because if you were here, I'd slap you.
In the closet, Flames fan. Okay, let's just
We got
forget.
Johnny Gaudreau
Yeah.
and
Mark Stone.
Mark Stone. Now, here I'm thinking about this, and I know you and I argued about this over text message, but I have to give to Johnny Gaudreau.
I don't think we argued. I think we said apples and oranges. Like, how do you decipher between these two seasons? They had very similar seasons.
Wouldn't that be apples and apples?
Well, I think the saying is apples and oranges. You know, one looks different, but they're basically the same. I mean, it's all personal preference.
All right, throw those oranges in the trash receptacle.
It's all personal preference, and I mean, if you like the little guy with a little more,
here's why. I gotta say it's Gaudreau because he's on the top line for the entire season, and that top line has scored 30% of the goals for the Calgary Flames.
Okay.
And without them, I know they got in the last little part of the season, and so did Ottawa. But like that was the team. Top line is the entire team.
Here's my counter. Stoner, he didn't even play on the top line for half the season, and then when he did get on the top line, he was basically at the same level as Alexander Ovechkin. The guy scored almost about the same amount of points as the highest point getter of any player in the NHL second half of the season.
It was fantastic.
How about that?
I can't argue with the stats.
Game winners coming out from all directions.
My point is, he wasn't as integral as Gaudreau was.
Well, I mean, I think the only reason that is because the Flames don't have as much depth.
You're making my point for me, Frank.
But that's not an argument. I guess you're saying that Stoner had better players to play with. No, that's not the truth.
Yeah, it is. They're a much better team.
Yeah, but Gaudreau was playing with Monahan and Hudler.
Yeah.
Two great players.
They are now.
Perhaps,
after this year, they're great players.
Perhaps better than any Sen that there is on the Senators roster.
Frank, the Senators turned their season around when Andrew Hoffman started in net and put shutouts together for about 2 weeks straight. And then they're like, oh yeah, we can actually do this. And then started playing hockey. And then Mark Stone's like, yeah, I'll take it from here, guys.
So I'll score some game winners.
Yeah, and Gaudreau said, hey guys, let's be the best line in hockey. Like, I have to literally say, they are arguably one of the best lines in hockey.
Well, we will see in the playoffs when they play against the Canucks. A really good, difficult competition for the Flames.
That's a
young
fantastic
squad.
Segue. Let's start with the East, okay? But before we do that, let's pause for a commercial break. Do you suffer from dry mouth? Do your hands make noise when you clap them together? Does your hair not get staticky enough when you want? Well, coming soon to a store near you, a pair of red mittens. These mittens will make your mouth moist if you put them in your mouth. These mittens will take away the sound of a clap when you smash your hands together. And last but not least, if you rub them in your hair, you will get static. Coming soon to you, red mittens.
Azithromycin. It's the best drug on the market for treating traveler's diarrhea. You will take 2 tablets once daily for 3 days to self-treat severe watery diarrhea while traveling in a developing country. Avoid taking antacids when taking this medication, and please ask your pharmacist.
Yeah, really big thank you to Red Mittens and Andromomythin.
Yes, those are the products that we go to when we have those type of needs.
All right, Frank. So let's start in the Eastern Conference.
Okay.
Were you surprised by anything?
Well, I mean, Ottawa, their comeback was unbelievable.
I'm going to use a cliche, pretty sensational, if I do say so myself. Like, the last game of the season, no one counted. Like, they had a better odds of getting McDavid than they did making the playoffs in, I think it was like February 17th. And now look at them.
I didn't think it was possible. It was improbable. And it was led by Mark Stone.
Which, I heard of the guy. Moving on, Frank, they actually passed the Pittsburgh Penguins. Like they're the first wild card.
Well, the Penguins kind of self-destructed, Greg.
Are they in deep trouble?
Well, I think that if they were healthy, they'd be in a lot better shape. But the question, which we are not going to answer right now because we're talking about the playoffs, is whether or not they should ditch Malkin or Crosby.
They're going to have to.
They won't ditch Crosby, but
it's kind of political suicide to send Crosby away, isn't it?
Totally. He is the face of their franchise. They're not going to get rid of him.
Now, where does Malkin go, though?
That's a good question. He could go to a roster that wants to put their city on the map in the States. Like I've heard Anaheim could afford him because they're not very tight to the cap at this point.
They got a ton of room, don't they?
They wouldn't be able to afford him for very long, but for a couple of years they could afford him on that second line, and they'd probably win the cup.
That would be a lot of fun to watch.
What do you think? Where do you think he could go? Have you thought about it?
No, I would love to see him in a place like Arizona or a place like Columbus, a team that struggles and could use some good help.
My guess is Toronto would. What would Toronto give up?
Well,
Toronto doesn't get the first round pick. Sorry, if Toronto doesn't get McDavid, then they would trade their first round pick to Pittsburgh along with whatever else they could. Maybe
Phaneuf, Kessel,
Riley, probably give them some more depth on defense. Probably give up Riley and the first to Pittsburgh along with probably a few other pieces.
You know, Toronto would give them anything they wanted. They give them Rob Ford. They give him a pair of Andrew Mameson or whatever you said.
Chad Owens from the Argonauts.
Yeah, it would go on.
Ricky Ray, and so they could maybe put him in like some sort of campaign for hair growth.
Joe Carter.
Joe Carter.
Okay, so we get the Montreal Canadiens playing the Ottawa Senators, Frank.
Oh yeah,
this is an interesting meeting because we've got the Habs who have an unhealthy Max Pacioretty who scored 37 goals this year, versus a Sens team who is convinced that they can't actually lose.
The question is will this mountaintop moment, this moment of the mountaintop experience for Ottawa, will it just it has to come down. What goes up must come down. They can only maintain this for so long. Can they maintain it for another 2 months? No.
No chance.
But can they maintain it for another 4 to 7 games? Yeah, they can. Especially against. Sure, why not? These teams are very similar. Montreal is an average club, a borderline playoff team, borderline missing the playoff team with an incredible goalie.
One of the best of all time.
He makes the difference for this team.
Well, yeah. You see that video he made? Was it WestJet video? Or Air Canada? Oh man, made me cry.
You had a tear going down your cheek.
Oh, I couldn't handle it. Listen, I'll tell you this, Ottawa Senators fans. Congratulations. Welcome to the dance. You will not beat the Montreal Canadiens.
Well, you're predicting 7 games for Montreal or what?
I'm predicting less than that. I'm predicting 5 or 6, Frank, for the Habs.
I'm going the other way. I'm thinking Game 7. Ottawa's magic will last, and they'll beat those Habitants.
What's the difference for you?
As I said, I think they're very similar rosters. I mean, Ottawa has their holes as well, especially on the defense. They're other than our buddy Carlson, they have a problem moving the puck up the ice. And so, I mean, but I still think overall, I mean, the depth up front for Ottawa is better, and they're riding this wave of confidence. Like they believe they can't do no wrong, and they've proven it for the last 20 or 30 games.
What they're going to run into is a Habs team that is not scared to beat a team that doesn't know any better. Yeah, Carey Price is one of the greatest goaltenders of all time, at least this season. Hoffman has let in a lot of goals on various games.
Hammond, you mean? Well, I mean,
Hammond, the burglar.
There's no perfect goaltenders, Greg, but the fact is Andrew Hammond has a .940 save percentage. I think his bad games have been kind of made up for by his good ones.
And here's the difference, Frank, though. And I know that being a Jets fan, you'll be hearing this a lot from me. It's easier to win one game from a team than it is to outsmart them for a 7-game series.
Well, you do see the magic disappear a lot of time for these teams that have just been making this push, and then they finally get in. They have a few days off, and the magic kind of disappears because the pressure's off to an extent. So, the question is whether I think Ottawa's clearly outperformed. They've outplayed better than they should have. They've done better than they're not that as good a team as obviously as they've been playing. They're not a 900, 800 club.
Oh.
they're a borderline team, and they were playing slightly below their potential for the first half of the season. This is a team that basically every game is a close game with the Ottawa Senators.
And props to them for being the best team in a long time. I think they went like 23-3 over the last crazy couple of games. That's impressive. And so, guys, congratulations.
Hammond lost one game in regulation.
Yeah, amazing statistics. Unfortunately, there are no shootouts in the Stanley Cup Finals, and they will get beat by a better, more experienced Habs team who are looking to go to the Stanley Cup Final this year.
It's amazing how Mark Method, though, has stabilized that defense and stabilized Erik Karlsson. The guy was like minus 20 the first half of the season. He finished like 10 or 15 above for the plus minus. It's amazing how Mark Method really stabilizes him, and helps the defense altogether.
It was a great story, and we're happy for you, Sens fans. Enjoy it while it lasts. If you're the Senators owner, enjoy the ticket sales. Enjoy the merchandise sales.
Maybe spend some money, you cheap ugger. or no.
You cheap ugger. Is that like the boots?
Oh, did it kind of cut out there?
Yeah, they did a little bit.
I said cheap bugger.
So I'm saying Ottawa or Montreal in 5 or 6. You're saying Ottawa in 7.
I'm going Ottawa in 7.
All right.
It's a confident pick.
On to the next one. Washington versus the New York Islanders, Frank. I'm loving this series. Loving this series.
Two good clubs. Win a Washington team that's played pretty good down the stretch, and an Islanders team that is kind of they haven't been the same team for the last 20 or 30 games.
No, they've been weird. They've been real weird.
As I've said, the excuse is that the refs have been putting away their whistles, which is an excuse. And
it's not really an excuse.
That would be Tavares' excuse.
Oh, right. It's an excuse, but it's not an excuse in terms of.
You don't buy it.
Well, the other team has to play under those same circumstances.
Yeah, certain teams though. Maybe they don't have the discipline or they talk bad to the refs, but certain teams get the calls and other teams don't, though.
You know how I feel about it when the refs don't call a game properly. It bugs me, and I will forever say it. And you'll see it this year in Game 7s when refs say, "Oh, we're going to put the whistles away," and I'm like, "What you're effectively saying, referees, is you're going to compromise the game."
That's what they do. That's what they do, and they've always done it.
Getting back to the series, though,
and they're not going to change.
Islanders versus Washington, two great teams, going different directions. I used to hate Washington. I can remember when it was Washington versus Pittsburgh back in the Ovi versus Crosby days.
You don't like Russians.
No, I just loved Crosby.
You don't like goal scorers that look like cavemen.
I got Russian friends.
You do not.
I do too.
Oh, okay. What's their name?
Igor.
Igor Grigorenko.
Igor Larionov.
Oh.
He's my
okay.
friend. Oh dear.
Okay.
I made a
Question.
mistake.
Did you cut it off?
No.
Oh, good. Question. Are the Islanders experienced enough to beat the Washington Capitals? Because the Capitals, they've been through it all. They've been through the ringer. They have a hard time getting out of the first round a lot of years, and they're lucky if they make it to the second.
Here's the thing, Frank. I don't put a lot of weight on experience. The older I get, the more I do, because I'm getting more experience, and maybe that just makes sense. I think the Washington Senators are a fantastic team.
The Washington Senators, best of both worlds.
The Caps are the best they've ever been.
Well, let's be honest. If you brought over the best players from the Sens, had them play with the best players of the Capitals, they would win the cup.
I get weirded out by those political references. Senators, Capitals.
That's fair enough. Okay, but getting past that, so you're saying what about the Capitals? What are you saying?
They're the best they've ever been. In the past, we said they got Ovechkin, they got Backstrom, they had Semin. This team is built to win. They got a goaltender finally in Holtby, and they're going to surprise. They're going to the second round for sure.
I heard an interview from Brooksy, Brooks and he says this is the first time they've actually had a professional coach. That's what he said.
Really?
Yeah, he's like it's just he said that. He said exactly that. He said it's the first time that we've had an experienced coach. I don't know if he said professional, or he said experienced.
I hope he said professional. That's great.
He said it's the best coach they've ever had.
And he's saying that's going to make a big difference.
Yeah, he says that's why they're so good. He's put Ovechkin in very good circumstances, right? And that's half the battle with a player. Ovechkin's a good player, but if you put him in compromising situations, thinks he has to do it all by himself, don't give him good offensive zone starts, then your players aren't going to do as well. Your job as a coach is to bring the best out of your players, and he's the kind of coach that's able to do that.
And remember last year, how Ovechkin ended the season. Like, he was miserable last year.
He was a miserable 50-goal scorer.
Yeah, it was bad. It was real bad. And so, you don't think the Islanders have what it takes, do you?
No, well, I mean, no, I like the Islanders. I like their depth. I mean, they've been building this team through the draft for the last 10 years.
Well, and Johnny Boychuk.
I like this team, but I just feel like they're kind of getting tuckered out. I think that they lack a little bit of experience. But I mean, I like their defense. I mean, I like how they're built with two pretty darn good second pairing defensemen, and it's really helped their club.
I think they're fantastic, and I think in the next couple of years you're going to see them.
I have a hard time knowing who to cheer for in this series, but I think the Washington's going to win in 6 or 7 games.
I'm going to say Washington in 6. Yeah, we're on the same page there, Frank. And that was an easy one to call, but I'm with you. I'm going to be cheering for both of those teams a lot. And that's the good news, is one of my favorite teams in the East is going to go on to the second round.
And hopefully they beat the Rangers.
The Rags, which is our next series, the Pittsburgh Penguins, which are pretty small right now, versus the New York Islanders, who are formidable. They're actually they're the number 1 ranked team to win.
It's a banged up club. I mean, they're without Letang. They're without their number 1 defenseman. They're out. Only Mata's out.
Yeah.
Is Christian Ehrhoff out?
Yeah.
They're a struggling unit right now.
Now they're also struggling to score goals, Frank.
Well,
do those defensemen make that big of an impact on Malkin and Crosby?
Well, when you have a player of the ilk of Letang, I mean, he's the one that gets the puck up. If you're having problems moving the puck, which you'd hope they wouldn't. I mean, Derek Pouliot, they probably don't want to give him very many minutes, because he's probably pretty soft defensively still. But I mean, he's able to move the puck. Paul Martin, you'd think he'd still be able to move the puck, but clearly, I mean, when it comes to offense, if your defense can't move the puck up to get it on a Crosby stick for the breakout, that's an issue. It's a serious issue. If you have a defenseman that's basically only capable of throwing it off the boards and out of the zone, then half the time the other team's just going to pick up the puck and bring it in the other way. This
series, out of any series in the playoffs this year, is going to be a massacre. It's going to be 4-0.
It could be a sweep. I mean, New York they're so confident right now. They've been the best team, I'd say, by far in the second half, and I think that includes Ottawa. I mean, they stomped Ottawa when Ottawa needed to win badly. I think it's an easy pick.
What's the question mark you have with the Rangers? Is it Rick Nash?
Not really. I mean, he's got 40 goals this year.
It's the playoffs. Remember him last year in the playoffs? He was nowhere.
I don't think it's all about Rick Nash. This team has a lot of depth. They're built down the middle. Defense is good, and I don't even like saying this because I hate the Rangers. I'll be honest, I don't like that stogie, toting Glenn Sather very much either. I'm not criticizing him as a person. I don't know him as a human being.
You hate smokers.
I do get vibes. Don't like the guy.
Yeah, I'm with you, Frank. I would love nothing more than to see the Rangers lose, especially when they gave up a lot this year to try and win the cup. And I mean, for all intents and purposes, they are supposed to win, and they very well could win. But let's skip on past that one, because that one's kind of a boring. It's too easy to say the Rangers are going to win in 4.
Boring.
Let's go on to Tampa Bay versus Detroit. An interesting series. I probably won't watch. It's interesting the fact that they're both pretty. Like, anyone can win that.
And in both these teams, I mean, the thing with these teams that I was reading up on this series, I haven't watched a lot of Red Wings or Lightning games this year. We know that the Lightning are stacked offensively. They're stacked to the point where Stamkos doesn't get as many touches anymore, and his points they've gone down because he's not as important. But so they're a stacked club. They got decent goaltending on defense. They have one of the best young up and coming defensemen in Victor Hedman, and their team, just like Detroit, that are at the top of the league for not allowing a lot of shots. They play a very tight style of play and keep teams from shooting the puck, or even shooting the puck. No, it's not that they don't allow shots; they allow shot attempts. Tampa Bay, so it should be a pretty defensive series between Detroit and.
It'll be a great series to watch. Tampa Bay's talented, and Detroit's got Babcock, and they're a well-built team too. They've got the perennial superstars in Zetterberg and Datsuk. Their question mark, as everyone knows, the goaltenders. Is it going to be? Mazurek?
They're going with Mazurek. Is that how you say it?
I don't know, Mazurek.
I've never had to say the guy's last name. Mrazek. There you go.
Mrazek. Mrazek.
I've read it, but never said it.
Or Jimmy Howard. And that's what I think is going to be the downfall of this series, is that they get no one responsible to put in net, and it's going to cost them.
Well, yeah, when we talk about a team that's one of the best defensive in the league in Detroit, and your goaltender's allowing allowing a lot of goals, clearly their goaltending's not good when the goaltenders are put in a pretty good spot. With the least shots. Yeah, they're pretty bad goaltenders.
Even if you've got Thomas Tatar.
Exactly.
The tartar sauce. He was a magician last year. Remember them? He carried the team.
He's good this year as well. What do you think about Bishop, though? Do you think he's a 1B goaltender? I mean, no one's thinking that he's an elite goaltender, but do you think he's a good option for Tampa?
Oh yeah, I think he's great.
You're a believer.
He's not Carey Price, he's not Henrik Lundqvist, but can he win the cup with that team? Absolutely.
I agree. I think that he's good enough for sure.
And that's what you need. Like, what have we learned in the past? Like, Jonathan Quick's a bad example, but Corey Crawford wasn't fantastic when Chicago won. Neither was Niemi.
Totally. And if their defense is as good as it's supposed to be, then he'll be all right.
Yeah, you only need a goalie that's good enough.
And especially nowadays, it seems like if you're 6'8", I mean, you'll at least cover the net, right?
yeah, or higher.
You don't even have to be a good goalie anymore,
right?
And if he struggles, you just stick it in Vasilevsky. He's 6'8" too.
Oh man. So I got Montreal, Washington, Rangers, Tampa, and you've got Ottawa, Washington, Rangers, Tampa. So who wins the East and who goes to the Cup final?
I think the easy pick is the Rangers,
okay.
But I'm certainly not hoping for them. But I think that's the simple pick. You want me to go with who's going to win? I'm going with Washington.
So I'm going to tell you what I told you at the beginning of the year.
What?
I said Tampa Bay versus Washington in the East final, and I'm going to pick Washington. How weird is that? You and I agree on something.
I like it. Yeah, I mean, I think Tampa would play Ottawa or Montreal in the second round, and I think, definitely Tampa Bay is going to beat Montreal, and I'm sticking with Washington. You said that Tampa is going to beat Washington, though, right?
No, I said Washington. Going with it.
Well, I don't like that we're on the same page.
It's kind of disgusting.
It's kind of wrong, but whatever.
It's kind of like that crusty mustard, when it gets all hard.
I heard that the bottle companies are creating a material where it won't stick. The mustard won't stick anymore.
No, I kind of miss that.
Well,
it grosses you out, but I mean, it's something to talk about.
You're one of those perverts who just doesn't even shake up his mustard. He just likes the liquid.
Oh yeah.
And then you just peel off the crusty mustard and put that on there too, like a little stinker.
I'm not scared to say I live on the edge a little bit, Frank.
You're a weird dude.
Why do you think I eat so slow? Because I'm scared. I'm scared of what's coming out next.
Is there any human? Someone's a sociopath when.
When they don't shake up the mustard.
They don't shake their mustard, and then they look around to the left, to the right, and then they peel off.
Hey, I shake my mustard like a Polaroid picture, I'll tell you.
The crusty mustard from the top.
Here's my thing, Frank, and before we get into the Western Conference, I want to bring something up here.
Sure.
You've recently changed your Twitter profile, @NathanFrankster, and @SirGregMoore if you want. You can join one of the many fans we have on Twitter. Your new profile picture, Frank, features a direct photo of your driver's license. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is a real photo of your driver's license?
It's my old photo. I live in Alberta now, so I got my old Saskatchewan driver's license photo. What's wrong with that? It's funny.
Well, I'm laughing because you got your ID on there, like your customer identifier number that no one else should have. You got it on the internet.
I don't have that driver's license anymore.
I'm telling you, someone's going to steal your information with your old driver's license.
It doesn't exist.
It exists.
You're saying I should take that off?
I'm saying leave it on and let's see what happens.
Well, it doesn't. I'm not a resident of Saskatchewan anymore.
I understand that, but the record still exists. So I could use that number to get information from you.
Okay, I'm taking it off.
Leave it on.
Well, I don't want to get my identity. Take it away.
Listen, I don't shake my mustard. You leave it on. Like you play weird games with your license on the internet.
Let's be honest. I'm not that important. No one wants my identity.
Yeah, that's what they said to that other person. They don't even exist anymore.
Yeah, they got murdered by that weirdo who Sloppy, watery mustard.
They put him in the receptacle. Okay, let's get on here with the Western Conference because everyone's waiting for us to get into the Western Conference. So let's start with a series that no one cares about. All right, so we got Nashville, Chicago, Frank, and literally, I don't know anyone that cares about this series.
Other than that Matt Burns guy.
Yeah, Matt
The
Burns
Hawks
cares
fan.
about. No, it was a Kings fan.
Oh, he's a Kings fan.
Listen,
Really?
Well, I don't know the story. It's a story.
Oh, okay.
Listen, here's what I'm talking about. Is Patrick Kane going to be back for this series? And if not, does it matter?
Well, the thing that I've been reading and hearing is the fact that when they lost Nick Leddy, it totally screwed up their whole team. It's really affected their entire breakout. It's affected their defense. Players like Roosevelt, who was paired with Leddy last year, he did great with Leddy. Leddy held him up.
You're telling me Nick Leddy is the difference for the Chicago team?
Let me finish my thought. So this Roosevelt guy plays really well with Leddy. Leddy makes him look good. And Brent Seabrook, he was paired with old Duncan Keith, another guy that's really good at moving the puck. He creates scoring chances for his team, prevents scoring chances, all around good defenseman. These two players didn't. Seabrook no longer plays with Keith because of the lack of depth in that defense. He starts to suck. Roosevelt can no longer play with Leddy. He starts to suck. It's affected their whole team. They're not as good because of it.
So,
your thoughts?
Will they? Well, I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you because I've actually, truthfully, I probably read the same article you did, and the stats actually back that up. So it's hard to argue that.
Yes.
But will they beat the Nashville Predators, who have backed into the playoffs?
They're still a playoff team. That's the thing. I mean, Chicago's still a team that knows how to win. And if they get Patrick Kane, then they have that clutch all-star back in their lineup. I think they get by Nashville. There's no doubt about it. Nashville is a team that's never had any playoff success. They have a little more offense, but they're built around players like Mike Ribeiro. Are you serious?
And Philippe Forsberg.
I mean, their defense is obviously pretty big names with Roman Yancey or whatever his last name is, and Shea Weber. So, I mean, they're going to be able to keep the puck out of their net. They got a superstar goaltender as well. But, this is a team that hasn't been playing well for the second half of the season. They've gotten back down to earth.
Yeah, no, it's true. But here's the thing. If Pecorine decides to be Pecorine, they could steal this series.
Yeah, especially when you look at him compared to Crawford. The guy can be an absolute sieve.
Yeah, remember a couple of years ago, the guy can't make a glove save?
He was terrible last year in the playoffs. He's part of the reason why they lost to L.A.
I'm telling you this. I think that Nashville could upset this series. I'm convinced of myself. It'll be tough. It'll be a grinder. And they're a big team too.
As we talk, you're getting more convinced that Crawford's going to be the difference in a bad way for Chicago.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it now, Frank. I'm calling Nashville in 7.
I'm sticking with Chicago in 6. I mean, they have a good team on paper. I mean, Chicago. There's other reasons. There's got to be other reasons why they've been struggling this year and haven't been the same team. But look up front. They still have Taves in his prime, who seems to always have the desire to win. That never goes anywhere. And they have Hossa, who's one of the best two-way players in the game. I'm sticking with Chicago. I mean, they don't have to face LA this year.
I'm going to say that Chicago should win, but I'm going to say Nashville is going to win. Nashville's going to steal it.
Okay,
and there's going to be a lot of questions in Chicago after.
So you're going Nashville in 6, or you're going...
No, Nashville in 7.
Nashville in 7. Okay, I'm going Chicago in 6.
Okay, and the next series is one of my favorite series.
Okay.
Can you guess which one?
Probably Winnipeg and Anaheim.
No.
Oh, they're the team that you secretly love.
Which team?
Flames and Canucks.
No.
Oh, well, St. Louis and Minnesota. Yes, indeed. I know. Honestly, for a time last year, I had lost faith. I no longer believed that we'd ever be able to say Doobie ever again, because he seemed really irrelevant.
We're as selfish as it gets. We only want Dubnyk back in the league so we can be ridiculous on our podcast.
Yeah, and so I can change my profile photo today, a picture of him in 4th grade with big old glasses.
Have you seen that photo? Grade. I follow him on Instagram.
Did you guys go to school together?
Yeah, we did. We were in high school friends. Let me rephrase that. I tried to follow him on Instagram. He has a private account, and he wouldn't let me. He wouldn't add me. So
he just doesn't.
If you're listening, Devin, screw you, buddy.
He's like Gary Lawless, just a stone prick.
Just a stud prick. So that's one of the good stories in the league. The guy couldn't even survive in the AHL. and comes back, starts to play a little bit better in Arizona, and then wipes the league and is probably going to be nominated for a Vezina Trophy at the end of the season.
Amazing how the Oilers can completely destroy a goaltender's confidence.
Amazing and incredible. I actually heard some stories about Dubnyk that a lot of it was his own fault in terms of he didn't want to listen to anyone else. That he thought he had it figured out and he thought he had it cased, and went through some real humility getting tossed around there for a while.
I like this. Who told you this? Who told you this?
I don't remember who told me, man. It was a guy. You know. Hey, Linda.
Okay.
Linda, it was a guy.
One of your sources.
Yeah, one of my breaking sources told me that he wouldn't listen to anyone, and that was one of the problems that he just kept on going down, and then, finally got traded to Arizona and started to listen, and then met with a real great guy in Minnesota. Did you read this article about how he's like changing how goalies play the game?
No, I haven't heard anything about this.
It's this coach, and he's like rewriting the rules on how goaltenders work, and it has everything to do with your head movement. And so he's teaching Dubnyk like the fundamentals of how this works. And instead of just moving your eyes where the puck is, you're supposed to move your entire head.
So he's tracking the puck better, basically.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, the proof's in the pudding, right?
Well, I mean, that's interesting. But in Phoenix, he did well. He did well in Phoenix as well.
Yeah, he started.
And as goaltender coach, there was Sean Burke, one of the few goalies that was big before it was cool to be a big goaltender.
Yep. Yeah, so I'm happy to see Dubnyk turn it around. I mean, the guy's going to get a contract next year. I mean, how big that contract is dependent on these next 7 games.
What did he play? What did he play? 30 straight games?
I think he might have been more than that, Frank.
30 or 40.
Yeah,
it's crazy. So do you think that he can be the difference maker in this series, or what do you think?
Truthfully, I'm going to say no.
I don't think it's going to come down to the goaltending this series anyway.
Yeah, I mean, here's my thing. I love you, Dubnyk, and I love the story. And I was actually thinking about this. In terms of Dubnyk, the next 7 games could earn him like a 50% increase on his wage over the next 3 seasons.
Well, if he gets to the Western Final, you thinking this goalie's making what, $5-6 million a year easy?
Yeah, and if he goes out first round, he's probably making 2.5.
I don't know. I think he still easily gets 4.
You think so, eh?
Well, I mean, look what he's done during the regular season. I mean, unless he completely just blows it, then yeah.
But if you're Cliff Fletcher negotiating that contract, you're saying, it could have been one and done. You're not friends when you're negotiating.
Well, someone else will pay him. I mean, he's an unrestricted free agent, is he not?
Yeah, I think he must be.
He's got to be. He's old, right?
Anyway, Doobie, we wish you the best of luck. But here's my thing about the St. Louis Blues. I mean, Jake Allen's going to be the starting goaltender, which bodes well for them. I mean, they got Brian Elliott in the background, which we don't even know who he is or if he's a goalie. He just kind of is there and does well every year. I actually think he does something else on the team, like a stats guy or something. And he just kind of.
I think he's a masseuse.
He just kind of fits in there. Yeah, I'll put on the pad, sure.
He's just around to loosen the guys up.
I mean, what's your first name? Is it Brian or is it Elliott? I don't even know.
He's got really soft hands.
Yeah, rumor has it. My other source said, those hands, wow. You got to wear some red mittens on those things.
He does some wild things with his hands. Kind of loosens up the bowels. So then you have to take azthromycin.
Something like that. I think the St. Louis Blues, if you don't get past the first round this year, you are in some... Like, what excuse do you have? Your third line is better than your first line.
You can't lose in the first round every single year when you are that good of a team.
You add Paul Stastny. Backus is playing well. TJ Oshie's not playing well.
They're considered on paper the best team in hockey.
They're amazing. Their defense is fantastic. Tarasenko is an elite player. An elite player. One of the best goal scorers in the league. And you got James Schwartz on there, Laterra. Like, there's no excuses for you guys not to win the West.
I'm thinking they get by many. Like, I mean, the run's been fun, many. But I think Minnie's a good team, but I don't think if they're at the caliber of St. Louis. My prediction is they lose in 6 or 7.
Yeah, I'm gonna say St. Louis in 6 or 7 as well. I have to. I don't like to agree with you, but it's just I would be foolish not to. Now, can I be wrong? Can we both be wrong in this? Absolutely.
Sure. Minnie proved last year with terrible goaltending, I might add, with Ilya Brizgalov.
Remember him?
In between the pipes. They almost got out of the second round.
He wasn't even on the same planet, and they almost beat them. Granted, they were playing the Ducks.
It didn't really seem to matter, to be honest.
Were they playing the Ducks? Was it Ducks?
In the second round, they played Chicago.
That's what it was.
And they were competitive, and they won the first round. And who did they play in the first round?
It was Colorado, wasn't it?
Colorado, and they they beat Colorado in 7 games.
The high-flying Colorado. Now, here's the thing: Minnesota's better this year than they were last year, and it's just a function of their terrible start that they have to play St. Louis first, and I think they're going to lose. And they're going to lose in 7.
I'm with you, and I think 7's a good bet. I'm going 7 as well.
All right, we're on to the next one, and this is one of my personal favorites: the Anaheim Mighty Ducks and Charlie Conway versus Big Buffalo Bufflin and the Winnipeg Jets.
And obviously you're going with Winnipeg, but let's get into the nitty gritty here and make your argument for Winnipeg.
Here's my thing about Winnipeg, and I've been watching this team for the past 2 months, and they're actually a pretty good team. Like, I know they have 3 third lines that they ice and a 4th line, but that's their biggest strength, is the fact that they'll put any line on the ice on any occasion, and they can score goals. Like,
sure,
if you look at their run, you've got their 4th line scoring big goals and then winning the game for them.
I'm with you. It's a team that's really come around, and I like how you say that they don't really have a first line. They got 4 third lines or 4 2.5 lines. Like they have a lot of good. They have a lot of mid-range players on their team, and they're big. They know how to take the body, and they're quick. They know how to score. But the weakness with them, which isn't much different than Anaheim, is the fact that they're prone to let in a goal or two and let in some bad chances the other way.
Yeah, let's be honest here. I mean, Winnipeg, if you watch them, Winnipeg has fantastic defense.
They're the Atlanta Thrashers.
But they take risks all game long. Game long. Their defense are jumping into the play.
They're a better version of the Atlanta Thrashers.
Yeah, basically. And, I mean, Pavlik, thanks for being so great down the stretch, but, I mean, you're still Andre Pavlik. You can't hide that from us. But then I look over the Ducks, and I'm like, yeah, you guys are going to take advantage of the fact that you're going to have a lot of chances to capitalize on, and Perry and Getzlav are 2 of the best goal scorers in the game, sure. But I'm talking about the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th lines of these teams.
This is a Bruce Boudreau team, and Bruce Boudreau teams do not play solid defensively. They're run and gun. They don't get past the second round. That's Bruce Boudreau's MO, and I expect them to struggle against Winnipeg. I'm gonna say Anaheim's gonna beat Winnipeg and probably make the Western Final, but they're not gonna be very deserving because they're gonna play Calgary or Vancouver.
It's a free pass if Anaheim wins, eh? And the funny thing is, if Winnipeg wins, it's not a free pass.
No, I don't even know what the heck's gonna happen if Winnipeg wins. Yeah. Like they'll be 3 out of the 4 teams will be from the one division, and at that point, I don't really know what they do.
It'll get real uncomfortable, I think.
Yes.
No, I think that Anaheim's a fantastic team, and I know they made a lot of changes at the deadline, and most people said that they won the trade deadline, upgrading their team's speed and making them younger. And I would agree. They're a much better team than they were, but they still, to me, I don't have the confidence on their back end. I would take the Winnipeg Jets defense any day over the current rendition of the Anaheim Ducks defense. And then the goaltenders, I mean, I'd give the edge to the Ducks, obviously, but it's going to be a real interesting series. 2 big teams that are fast and can score goals.
The thing with Anaheim is I don't really think their goaltending's that great either. But I mean, you're just speaking like a Jets fan. You don't believe in Pavlik. But this is a team that is not that great on the power play. They're not that incredible on the penalty kill. I mean, they're decent at possessing the puck because they have Getzlav, who carries the play when he's on the ice, and they have some depth. But they're just not they're not a team that really wows you. They barely outscore their opponents, but they're incredible in 1-goal games. Did you see that? Like, they've lost 1 game in regulation all year in 1-goal games.
The best thing about it is those stats nerds, which you're becoming, Frank, would look at that and say, yeah, it's impossible. But, I mean, you're also the same people that say the Flames aren't going to make the playoffs and the Jets aren't going to make the playoffs. And we love stats for what they tell us, but, I mean, they don't predict the future.
No, but the Jets are stats-wise, they're a good team.
They're a great team. And how about Jimmy Slater, 4th line on the Jets, being the best faceoff guy in the NHL?
I did not know that, but his name's Slater, so I'm happy about it.
You like the Saved by the Bell reference there?
Yes.
Yeah, best faceoff guy in the NHL. Now, I think that's like the second half of the season or whatever it was, but like not even close. Patrice Bergeron, never heard of him.
Get real.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons.
Do you think Maurice is actually a good coach? Like, I have a hard time taking him seriously, again, because of those bags underneath his eyes, and because he coached the Leafs. I mean, if he coached the Leafs, I have a hard time.
Here's what I like about Maurice.
Yeah, go for it.
One, he's a fantastic interview. He's got great comedic timing, and he's got a voice that could narrate radio commercials all day if he wanted to.
He does have a great voice.
Oh, it's fantastic. What I like about him is he seems to, at least right now, have the right tension between reining the team in and letting them play their style. He understands that these guys are going to play run and gun and that they want to score goals and they want to take risks, and he's not trying to coach them out of that. He's just trying to make them be more responsible within that. Like, look at Drew Stafford and Tyler Myers. Like, they're rejuvenated people. Coming over from Buffalo, they were just shells of human beings. And now they're having fun again. And apparently that's what Maurice said. He just told them, hey, get out there, play good hockey, and have fun. And that's kind of what he lets the guys do. He lets them have fun. And truthfully, they are. They're shaking hands. They believe in each other. And when a team believes in each other, and this is Ottawa's wild card too, you never know what's going to happen.
So after the game, they take their gloves off and shake hands? Is that what you're referencing?
With their entire team. Every game.
Well, I like that. And, I mean, the Myers, I mean, they were smart to put him with Enstrom. He's really stabilized Myers' game. It's completely turned around. It's crazy.
We're having a lot of fun out there. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, everyone expects the Ducks to win, but I think it's just it's not even an underdog. Winnipeg could legitimately win this series.
So you're going Jets in 7?
I'm going Jets in 7.
Okay, I'm going Ducks in 7. Ducks in 7.
All right, we'll see. What are we betting on this?
Oh, good question.
Steak dinner, no steak knife.
You have to take me. What's that restaurant in Regina?
The Shanghai Lily.
No, that place where Jason Kerr bought a well done steak.
Where was that?
That place just on Victoria and what's it called? Arcola.
I don't know.
It came with some sort of pasta, Chianti's or something. Anyway.
Oh, I remember the one. You went.
Do you remember?
Yeah. What's it called? He's got the adobo steak penne.
He's like, he's like, I want a steak. I want it well done.
He's like, I want a steak and I want you to ruin my night.
He's like, burn it.
Yeah. He's like, I hate myself. Burn that thing.
And then the 19-year-old waiter's like, are you sure?
I got a steak and replace it with a piece of cardboard for me, will you?
Kerr's like, I don't like food. I don't like enjoyment.
Yeah. He's like, take the joy out of my life. Kerr, we love you. You know that. Which leads us to the series that Frank's most excited about. Vancouver Canucks made it to the playoffs, and now they're going to face their arch rival, the Calgary Flames.
Which hasn't been much of a rivalry yet, but I think it will be.
But
both
it's an interesting thing.
Other than Derek Dorsett, like the Canucks aren't a very mean team either. Well, again, they do have that dirtbag Alex Burrows and Biasca. Okay, so they're going to be pretty irritating in this series. Let's be honest. Flames fans are going to go crazy. But you're leaning. This is the series where it's like Calgary wouldn't have beat anybody else in the first round. I mean, you wouldn't think. In Vancouver, this is the perfect matchup for both teams.
Yeah, it's weird because I mean, one of these two teams, which at the very beginning of the season we weren't sure we're going to make the playoffs, but one of these teams is going to the semifinals of the Western Conference. It's the most bizarre thing in the world to me. I mean,
both of these teams don't have the Canucks' second line center is Nick Bonino.
Right? I mean, truthfully, I really like Nick Bonino, and I think he's fantastic. So, bad example for me.
You're a Nick Bonino fan.
Oh, yeah, he was fantastic on the Ducks.
I don't think he's a second-line center.
He's playing great. I think he is.
Well, then if that's the case, then sure, go Canucks go. Canucks go forever.
You're making fun of me.
No, I'm just saying that I don't think Bonino is a kind of player that you on your second line that can really take you very far.
Well, I mean, truthfully, he needs more help than just Nick Bonino. You can't have a second line center that's just Nick Bonino.
But this is a Canucks team that gets production from every single player up front. They have 9 forwards with 10 goals.
Yeah, it's great.
That's basically every forward has 10 goals.
It's something that is really underrated, and people wonder, hey, how did the Canucks do it this year? The Sedins. If you watch that team play, they actually come across to me like a veteran hockey team, where they're not trying too hard. They pick their spots and then they execute. And you can see the Sedins on their line in the power plays or whatever. They can control the puck for hours.
Both of these teams are not very high possession teams. I mean, the Sedins are. I think the Sedins are basically they're the straw that stirs the drink in Vancouver. 50 assists each. Who are they setting up?
That's a great question.
They're not setting up each other.
No.
So I mean, I give them a ton of credit for this team for all these goal scorers, all these 10 goal scorers on Vancouver. I'm giving the credit to the Sedins.
Yeah, it's a great story. And you got Eddie Lack who's playing over his head, and
Gotta
then you
love
got
Eddie
Ryan
Lack.
Miller. You got Ryan Miller in the barn.
I hope he stays on the bench.
Miller?
Yeah, he's 35. Go home. Stay home.
What do we got? You hate fat people. You hate old people. And what
Well,
was the other one?
He's over the hill. I never said I hate fat people. I was supporting you. That
Gary
that-
Lawless. He's the world half empty.
Yeah, like Gary Lawless. You can't tell me that you don't have like an hour free on a game day in Winnipeg.
Yeah, to see someone who wants to educate you on how you see the world.
Are you telling me, Gary, you honestly don't have time to hang out with Greg Moore? That just seems ridiculous.
How many comic books does this guy have to read to have coffee with me?
Yeah, and like get some class.
Something like that.
He's cross-eyed or something.
Now here's
Okay,
the problem.
let's-
Here's the problem about the Flames, though.
Okay.
The Flames aren't smart enough to know that they shouldn't win.
I just think they're. Yeah, I honestly think that like the argument that Vancouver maybe they've been there before and Calgary's just going to be happy to make the playoffs. I don't believe it. I
It's a
think
ridiculous statement.
I'm actually with you, and the Calgary's not really. I mean, they're probably going to win one of the first two games in Vancouver is my prediction, and I think if Vancouver wins, they'll be in Game 7 because I think Calgary doesn't matter how much they're getting outplayed, they're going to score a big goal, and it's probably going to continue in this round.
And they have one of the best come from behind margins in the league.
But they are playing against a team in Vancouver that isn't particularly scared of Calgary either. So I mean, I guess the question is, which team are the real deal, and which ones are the fakers?
I think the difference for me is going to be in net, where the Flames are going to ice Hiller and Ramo, and at the very end of the day, I don't really believe in either of those guys.
No, I completely agree with you. I think Lack is a better goaltender than Hiller for sure. And Ramo's not much better than Hiller.
But here's one thing I want to point out.
Okay.
Both times the Flames have been to the Stanley Cup final, do you know who they beat in the first round of the playoffs?
Well, I know they beat Vancouver.
The Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah. But
So, if history is going to repeat itself, and the Flames fans, are going to go to the Cup final in the West, you got to beat Vancouver.
Well, apparently, according to history. So you're going Calgary or you're going Vancouver?
To me, if I'm going to be honest with myself, I'm going to say Vancouver in 7. But it could honestly be Vancouver in 5. It really could.
Why don't you want to be honest, Greg? What's your problem?
Because I like the underdog, and the Flames are the underdog. They've been there all year.
Oh, there you go, cheering for the Flames again.
You set me up, Frank.
I'm going Vancouver, and I'm going with Vancouver in 6.
Vancouver in 6. So who do you have winning the West then?
Oh man,
Do Vancouver Ducks win the West Final versus?
Do I have to do this again? I'm going with St. Louis, and they're just going to disappoint me again, make me look like a schmuck.
You've been going with St. Louis for like 4 years now, haven't you?
Oh yeah, every year I'm just like,
Dinner with schmucks.
They struggled last year, but they have a pretty good road this year. I mean, if they can get by Minnesota, then they'll likely play Chicago in the second round, and I guess that's kind of
that's a great road. And then follow up with Anaheim.
Okay, so they may not get by Chicago, but if they get to Anaheim, they're going to beat Anaheim.
I'll tell you this: if they get past Minnesota, they'll go to the Cup final.
All right, well,
that's all
we're on the same page. So we're saying in a couple months we're going to have St. Louis versus Washington.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think it's going to go like we want it to, but
It's disgusting when we agree with each other like that.
I think it's more likely St. Louis makes it than Washington. I mean, I think the East is more wide open. I think St. Louis is a pretty easy pick.
Yeah, I know. We like to play it safe here. Safety first, buckle up. And that's it, Frank. That's all I got. That's the playoff preview of Plus Minus. The fans have been hounding us all year long for the podcast. We did it. What do you got to say for yourself?
Well, maybe we should do one this summer or something.
What do you think, fans? Tweet us. You know it, at Sir Greg Moore, at Nathan Frankster.
Yeah.
Let us in. Let us into your lives. Invite us into that thing.
We want to whisper in your ear.
I actually have a request that we
Hi, how are you?
Periscope this podcast next time.
I have no clue what periscoping means.
Periscope's this new thing. It's kind of like Twitter, where you can actually live broadcast from your phone, Frank.
Greg, you're the only one that tells me about new technology. If it wasn't for you, I would have never had that horrible experience with Snapchat, where Simon started sending me these porn advertisements or something. First time I was like, "Oh, Simon, you funny guy," and I was like, "Okay, enough about the penis enlargements, Simon. It's not funny." So then I deleted the app.
Did that actually happen?
That happened.
Was he hacked or what?
I don't know, I guess. So I assumed he was hacked. So I just deleted the app. I was like, this is stupid.
Well, here's a new one. Periscope, it's live. And so
Okay.
I can tune in. I can put it on, and people can tune in from all over the world and watch you and I record our hockey podcast.
Oh, I've heard about this. I actually heard about this the other day. Like stupid I should forget I said that. That's not very nice. Teenagers are putting it by their bed, and like people can watch you sleep, which is really weird. And
It's the most uncomfortable thing. People tune in and just say, "Hey, ask me questions."
So
From all
we
over the world.
So how would we do this with like our phones or?
Yeah, I would just set up my phone and I would just say record, and it would be gold. They can ask us questions live. You know what? We're doing it in the summer. We're doing it, Frank. We decided right now.
Let's Periscope.
We're gonna let's change the word and call it. We're gonna scope it. We're gonna scope it out.
Let's scope it. I'll go on the top of the Calgary Tower, and you can find some tall building, and then we can record there.
We'll do
weird.
it.
Okay, that was a strange idea. I don't know what my fascination is with tall buildings, but
No,
all right,
that's all I got.
yeah, let's go. Let's wrap this up.
Well, let's do our thank you reel. So thank you to my parents for having me, my best friends, my wife for putting up with me, and thank you fans for tuning in and putting us over the century mark. Frank, I don't know if you know this. This is our 100th episode.
Are you serious?
This is our 100th episode of the Plus Minus Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in and making it happen.
That's pretty crazy. I'd like to thank our finest tropical fruit trail mix, and also I'd like to thank Azith from Masterson for really helping me on the road when I have traveler's diarrhea.
All right, we'll see you this summer, guys. Thanks a lot, and go Jets, go!
Just grab your hat, come travel light, that's hobo style. Maybe tomorrow I wanna settle down. Until tomorrow, the whole world is my